Hello UPSC aspirants. As we have promised that we will be coming up with videos making editorials simplified for you. And in this series today I'm going to talk about one of the editorials that appeared in the newspaper The Indian Express on 30th of December 2023, written by none other but Mr. Arun Prakash. And you know, he is a retired chief of the naval staff. So something that comes directly from the horse's mouth. It talks about order at the sea. And what Prakash sir is trying to tell us? He's telling us that India must use its standing with Iran and Israel. We are friends with both of these countries. And why he wants us to use this standing with Iran and Israel? So that we can bring some kind of peace in West Asia, where there is lot of trouble, turbulence and unrest. Now in this editorial he is talking about so many things. Here we have to understand the idea of maritime trade. While we talk about maritime trade, we will be talking about sea lanes of communication. Here we have to understand the strategic choke points. We have to understand the threats by the Houthis, and we will also be talking about the global protocols or the treaty obligations related to the security of maritime routes. And not to forget, we have to understand one very important thing, that what is India's role in it, more particularly when US has already launched a specific operation in the region. So without wasting much time, let's talk about the importance of this editorial for your civil services exam, and I will try to make you understand it from all the three perspectives, be it your prelims, mains or your interview. Now here we are going to talk about initially the importance of maritime trade. So students, I hope you must be knowing this thing, that shipping is the lifeblood of global economy, and it carries about 80% of the world's oil and 10 trillion tons of cargo annually. Now when I talk about this, canvas, this global canvas, this map, what I want you to understand first of all, now there are some very strategic, very important points in this global trade route or the sea lane of commerce. Now let's talk about these important points. First of all, let's talk about this, the Strait of Malacca. It is Asia's primary choke point, and it accounts for almost 25% of the traded goods and third of all seaborne oil. Imagine a situation that from any of the Middle East countries, from where you get the oil, you have to bring oil to, let's say, China. So it will be from this route, and if someone has already strategically captured this area, the choke point of Strait of Malacca. Now if Indian Navy is having its presence here, or if the Chinese Navy somehow tries to have its stronger presence in this area, they can, cut off the trade here. And similarly, we have few other very important strategic points, like we have the Suez Canal, we have Bab el Mandeb, and then we have Strait of Hormuz. Now imagine a situation if any of these choke points are taken over by some non-state actors or some terror groups, then what would be the situation of global trade? So America, the United States of America, or all the liberal democratic countries, and India to be very precise, we all believe in freedom of trade, and we want the security of these sea routes or these maritime trade routes. So keeping all this in mind, we have to understand that even though India has a small merchant fleet, but 1.5 lakh Indian sailors on foreign ships are traveling all the while. So their security is also a prime concern for the government of India. Now let's try understand what are the threats to the maritime security. The most recent thing that you must be reading in the newspapers is about the Houthi rebels who are active in Yemen and who are targeting the Red Sea shipping and posing a threat to international trade. Now here is the Red Sea. It is between African region and the Arabian Peninsula. Here we have the Red Sea. So quickly understanding, here we have the Mediterranean Sea between Europe and Africa. here we have Mediterranean Sea, then here we have the Red Sea. So someone from Europe coming from the Mediterranean can enter Red Sea through Suez Canal, right? So from Europe you enter the Mediterranean, from Mediterranean you enter into the Suez Canal, it's near Egypt, and then you come to Red Sea. From Red Sea you enter into the Arabian Sea or the wider Indian Ocean. Here we have Arabian Sea, here we have Bay of Bengal, and this wider canvas is your Indian Ocean. So if you are keeping track of the things, what China is trying to do, China is not only trying to capture all these sea routes, and the entire idea of that string of pearls is to capture all these choke points, right? But at the same time, China is also trying to build that Belt and Road Initiative to have an alternative trade route if there is a problem with any of these choke points. So India also need to have a plan, a contingency plan, and it is not just about India, it is about any and every country. So the more the powerful a country is, the more it will have an interest to keep these trade routes or these choke points clear and safe and secure, right? So Houthis are presently targeting this region, and it is basically why, because when the recent episode of Arab-Israel war started, that the people in Israel were attacked by the people from Palestine, and then the Israeli army then started pounding the Gaza region, then the situation started to slip out of the control, and now these Houthis, who are believed to be supported by the Iranian state, they have become very volatile, very active in this region of Red Sea, and they are threatening that they will not allow any country to trade particularly specifically with the Israelis. But the problem is how to differentiate and how to recognize a neutral ship or a ship that is not trading with the Israelis, right? So the problem here is that historically, if we go by some of the precedents or examples in the past, during World War II, many of the merchant ships, even during World War I, if you remember in World War I, when the German U-boats, that submarine, they attacked one of the British ship, Louisiana, in which many of the Americans were also traveling, and it was believed to be or called a passenger ship, and many civilians lost their life. That was the point when America entered into World War I. Similarly, during World War II, the German attacks, and then during the Iran-Iraq war, all these while, in all these wars, these region or these choke points, they became very crucial. Now all the big players, all the freedom-loving players, all the people who believe in freedom of trade, they all want these trade routes to be safe, right? Now moving forward, so first of all, there must be a question in the mind of many of you that from where did these Houthi rebels come into the picture? What exactly is the idea behind the creation of the group, from where they emerge, what kind of threats they pose, and what examples we can quote when we talk about these rebels? So guys, the roots come from Zaydiya Shia sect. It is a minority sect in Yemen, and they have been historically marginalized by the Sunni authorities. So it's kind of a Shia-Sunni conflict in the Yemen region. The ideology of the Houthis is anti-imperialist, anti-corruption, and they have closer ties with Iran. Now they have great military capabilities. They are experts in guerrilla tactics. They are having improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and their arsenal is increasing day by day. Now they have ballistic missiles and cruise missiles, and this is with the potential support of Iran, right? Now if we talk about the social impact, the exploitation of sectarian grievances, the Shia-Sunni conflict, right, and the restriction of women's rights in the controlled areas, these are some of the very serious concerns for the society where the Houthis, they have become powerful, or they are now behaving like a non-state actor having the powers of a state. What threats they have, like they pose for the global or for the regional stability? Politically, if we talk about, overthrew Yemeni government in 2014, sparking a civil war, and control of strategic areas like Sana'a and Red Sea ports. Now that's very serious, because as I have just explained, this is something that relates to global sea or maritime trade. Then regional security, missile attacks on Saudi Arabia and UAE, threat to Bab el-Mandeb Strait and impacting global oil trade, which we have already discussed. Economic disruption, and I hope by now you would have understood that the entire global trade, 80% of the oil exports, they are going through these areas. So attacks on energy infrastructure and shipping, worsening Yemen's already crippling economic situation. And the more the economic situation will deteriorate, more the unrest will spread. Then there obviously is the situation of humanitarian crisis, use of child soldiers, indiscriminate attacks on civilians. World's worst humanitarian crisis we are witnessing in Yemen, with millions facing famine and disease. Now if we take some of these examples, the ongoing conflict has caused humanitarian crisis, displacing millions, right? Then Saudi-led coalition airstrikes, escalating proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. This is something very serious. Then blockade on Houthi controlled areas. Then this is leading to food and medicine shortages in this area, and UN, which is calling for ceasefire and asking to increase aid access. But because the fighting is continuing, so neither peace nor aid is possible in this area. So this is a situation of grave exigency. Now, if we talk about these strategic choke points which I was trying to explain, we have Malacca Strait, Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, and then these are those critical points which are vulnerable to disruption, and if they fall, the entire global trade is destined to fall, right? Houthis attack Bab el-Mandeb, forcing ships to take longer routes. That increases the cost, that escalates inflation, and that creates lot of scarcities, right? Now, what are the complexities of the Yemeni conflict if we try to understand? It is seen as a Saudi-Iran proxy war, right? These Houthis, they are being supported or sponsored by the Iranians against the Saudi system or the Saudi arranged setup in the region, and with multiple actors involved like UAE, Qatar, Jordan, Sudan, Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah. And UN drone strikes, now recent US drone strikes have added more tensions in the region, and this now calls for immediate action by the global community to bring about peace and security. You would have seen these images when the Houthis, they used a helicopter, landed on a ship and hijacked it. So Houthis' motivation, what is motivating them? Claim to target only Israeli-linked ship to pressurize Israel over Gaza conflict. But the problem will always be, however, their ability to discriminate and keep promises is questionable. They may and they in fact have attacked the other ships as well. Now, what is international response to this? So USA has launched Operation Prosperity Guardian, but it also faces criticism from its NATO allies, and we will talk about this criticism and what are the basic features of this, or what are the basic yardsticks of this operation Prosperity, right? Prosperity Guardian. And when we talk about India, India has deployed warships as a naval presence to show reassurance that we are committed to safety and security of the sea routes or the region, right? Now, if I talk about this US Operation Prosperity Guardian and reactions of the allies, let's take first example. What is the motivation behind it? So it is counter Houthi-led attacks on shipping in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Now, it is initiated by the US Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and the main activities are naval patrols, escorting commercial vessels, intelligence gathering, maritime domain awareness. But when I talk about the allies in general, the US allies, so they want to ensure the safe maritime passage and free flow of trade. This is a coalition of 9 countries in which we have Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, France, Greece, Netherlands, Norway, Celsius and UK. But when it comes to support, it is varying support. Some contribute ships, some give personnel, others offer logistical or intelligence assistance. When we specifically talk about India, India intends to secure shipping for Indian trade and maintain good relations with both US and Houthi-backed Yemen. We want to keep good relations because we cannot jeopardize our trade. We cannot, make it a situation of threat for Indians in the region, and we all know that how much of Indian diaspora is settled in the entire region. Then Indian Ministry of External Affairs is in constant touch with all the sides, and there is no direct commitment of ships or personnel. Increased presence in combined maritime force, what we call CMF patrols. So yes, we are patrolling the region. Now when I talk about reactions, there are some positive reactions welcomed by major shipping companies and countries dependent on Red Sea trade, but there are some concerns. Some allies are hesitant due to regional sensitivities and potential escalations. This may lead to bigger conflict or bigger war that can further disrupt the supply chains, global supply chains, and can bring about, destruction or contraction of the global trade. When we talk about some mixed responses here, most support the objective but are cautious about the level of involvement. They do not want direct military intervention. There is some criticism, some question effectiveness and potential bias towards Israel, that why, when Israel has gone all out of its way to destroy Gaza, why they are not being stopped? Isn't it the human rights crisis there? Right? Then there is a caution on part of India. India expressed support for maritime security in general, but avoided criticizing Houthis directly. And it is a very pragmatic kind of approach on part of Indian diplomacy. We are trying to balance ties with US and desire for stable trade with Yemen as well. And not to forget the safety and security of Indian diaspora there, as well as the trade routes. Now let's take some of these examples. I will share the slide. You can read these examples. These are self-explanatory examples, so I will not be reading them out for you. Now, what are the challenges for Indian Navy here? So the most important thing for Indian Navy is to ensure the respect for flag state jurisdiction over ships in international waters. Now, what is this flag state jurisdiction? I will explain it in the next slide. And the difficulty is to counter drone warfare against small, low-flying drones as are being used by Houthis. What is India's role here? So, use good relations with Iran and Israel to urge moderation and prevent escalation so that there is peace, there is prosperity, there is hope, and contribute to regional maritime security and stability, which we are committed to, and we are actually doing a lot for this. Let's take some of these examples. In 2008, Somali pirates crisis disrupted international shipping and increased the costs. So yes, if things like this continue to happen, then the global supply chains will be disrupted, global trade will be disrupted, and it will have impact on all the countries. Then Iran-Iraq tankers war in 1980s caused significant economic damage. Similarly, the US Navy's use of drones in Yemen has been controversial due to civilian casualties as well. So we have to keep all these things in mind. Now, when I talk about the flag state jurisdiction over ships in international waters, I will not be reading this entire slide for you. I will be giving you the crux of it, and then in the first comment that we will pin, we will give you a link to all this information and you can download it and read it. So exclusive flag state jurisdiction. Now this is one of the principles which is based on customary international law, freedom of the seas, UN Convention on the Law of the Seas, right? Article 91, 92 and 94. Now what is this agreement all about? Absolute jurisdiction, ships treated as an extension of the flag state territory. So which ship, if a ship belonging to India is there in the Red Sea, so it will be then considered to be Indian person and it will be treated as per Indian laws. So there are few examples of Guyana detained a Saint Vincent and Grenadines flagged ship violating these laws, flag state jurisdiction, right? There are many examples, you can read them. So this table I'm not going to read for you. You can just read it once and it will be simply understandable. Now, when I talk about relevance for this UPSC Civil Services exam, so when we talk about the prelim exam, something that will be very important is places in news, then map-based questions, international treaties and obligations, which we have already covered to some extent in the previous slides. When we talk about GS paper mains, so mains GS paper 2 international relations and GS paper 2 security, and there can be essay on maritime security as well. Now when we talk about the personality test, what an aspirant is expected to know understanding of regional conflicts, ability to analyze the complex situations, and commitment to international cooperation. So if you cover all these things, in that case you are well prepared for the exam. I hope these editorial simplified videos, this series will be appreciated, and I expect you guys to comment to the extent to which you like or the extent to which these videos are helping you. It will motivate me and my team to make more such like videos. And do subscribe to the YouTube channel or to our Telegram channel. All the links are here, and I will also be sharing this on my Twitter handle X. So the link is here, and you can go and check out all the important news items, all the important editorials, all the important stuff for your GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 and essay as well. Everything is there on my Twitter X handle, and you can make use of it for your preparation. Thank you and best of luck.